How many languages do you speak?
4.
So what are they?
Spanish, French, Wolof, English. Portuguese is functional.
So that's interesting. Why is that the one that you speak the least? Portuguese.
I'm fluent in Cape Verdean Creole, and I speak Portuguese the least because I have the least opportunity to speak it. That's the only reason. Now that I'm working more closely with a partner of mine in the Regional Council of Africans in the Americas, I'm speaking it more. I find that I'm benefiting a lot, from that collaboration. So I'm hoping that I could pick it back up again where it was.
Okay, so now you can help me out, because when I went to Senegal, all I knew was Nangadef. So that was not helpful.
That's good to know. That will open plenty of doors.
So I always feel like when I travel, I need to be able to say yes, no, please, right. Thank you, and count to 10. Okay. So you can help me out. And so we got a couple of people that are looking already, so you can come. So Nangadef is, what is that? Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Then how do you say yes?
Yes is Jetta. Well, first let's go with thank you, right? Yes is wow.
Wow.
Wow. So okay. and what's interesting about that is there's and no is dead. So
dead.
Wow.
Is it dead or dead deaf?
Dead with a T.
Dead. Okay, dead.
Right.
And wow.
Yep. And I think those are the key, the main 3 things that you'll need to learn. The reason being is that Senegal, most West African countries are known for their hospitality, but Senegal, above and beyond others, has it almost as part of their national constitution, right? Like they really go above and beyond, and so it's called teranga, and teranga is a model, and it's also a cultural call of action to let's be our best African selves to each other. So it's not it did not come by way of some type of tourist revolution. They are very hospitable to each other. So therefore, when it's somebody that comes outside of the country, they tend to extend that level of hospitality. And so I say, when you start with those, the hello, Nangadef, which itself, it's a series of questions, because you can't say Nangadef without then saying, how's your family? Without saying, how's yours? And exchanging in that, and then going into what's next. They will adopt you from there, and then they will teach you everything that you would need to know, right? So I think with those, I think you will be very good, with that in Senegal.
Okay, but you got to count to 10. Count to 10 in Wolof for me.
Count to 10 in Wolof? How much are you paying me?
How you gonna do me like that? This is for my negotiation skills.
That's right. So that's teaching everybody, basically the process of negotiation. But let's do it. All right. So for number 1, we have Ben.
Say it again.
Ben. Number 2 is nar. 3 is not. Net. And number 4 is nent. Number 5 is jurum. Number 6 is 5 plus 1, so it will be jurum ben. Number 7 would be 5 plus 2, so it will be jurum nar. And so on. So jurum nat is 8.
Judumnat is 8.
Mm.
So it's just 5 plus until you get to
5
10.
plus, right? Until you get to 10. 10 has its own name. So 9 is Judumnit.
Judumnit.
And then 10 is Fuk.
Fuk.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Now I got something. So if
There
we ever get, when I can travel again and I go back to Senegal, I love Senegal, then I'll have that. So thank you for that lesson.
It's my pleasure. There's a for those that have the time to spend, if they have more, those academics that have more than a month to spare in the summers, I would highly recommend to enrolling in a Wolof class at the Baobab Center in Dakar. And and the folks there do a really good job. I've heard in teaching you a accelerated Wolof on steroids. So I would highly recommend that.
Wow. Okay. So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dr. Ifetayo Ojelade. I'm a licensed psychologist and the executive director at A Healing Paradigm. And today I have my brother that just gave me a mini Wolof lesson for free. So I have my skills a little bit better with next time I return to Senegal. His name is Lord, I'm gonna call you Amani. Damani Aaquil. He's a co-founder and executive director of the Regional Council on Africans in America. He also has 50 million other things going on, just like all, our brothers is doing multiple things. He does, is it Radio Cuba?
Yes.
Radio Cuba on WRFG right here in Atlanta. And he also runs the RBG Loft. But today I have him here with me to have this conversation. So we're going to talk about looking at building the challenges and the opportunities to build a Pan-African coalitions across the Americas. So thank you, Brother Damani, for showing up with me today.
It's my pleasure, sister. It's good to be here in ground with you today.
Yeah,
I'm excited.
Yeah, so I have like a ton of questions, but we'll just see where this goes. I think the first place I want to start is to just kind of, when you say the Americas, what do you mean? Because I think people hear different things when we say we're talking about the Americas.
Yeah, that's a really good question. Even when people hear the term African American, I'm hoping that after I define what I mean by the Americas, we could then begin to look at the term African American through a different lens as well. Mm-hmm. When I say the Americas, or when we say the Americas, those of us that do work in the region from a African diasporic perspective, we mean from the tip of North America, past Canada, all the way down to the tip or the cone of South America, Tierra del Fuego. So that entire continent, the Western hemisphere of the globe, we call the Americas, which would include the archipelago of the Caribbean islands as well. So when we say Africans in the Americas, then we recognize what we would call the geography of the Ma'afa, that great destruction that brought so many of us from the continent of Africa over to the Western Hemisphere. We've created or recreated African communities, a African reality in the Western Hemisphere, in the Americas. So therefore we say that an African American is someone who resides anywhere within, the Americas. I remember the impetus to look at geography from an African human geographic standpoint started during one of my first visits in America, Mexico. When I was an undergrad, I had just finished reading They Came Before Columbus, and I wanted to go and really see if it was true. I saw the pictures and whatnot, and back then we didn't have YouTube, so I went down to Puebla, Mexico, and I had a home family that I stayed with. I did a lot of internal traveling. And I remember having a dinner with my friends and their parents, and very nice people. And naturally they were curious and they asked, where are you from? I said, I'm from America. And, the lady of the house smiled and said, oh, that's nice, which I would translate as, that's cute, right? Right. That's cute. I am too. And I said, wow, okay, that's interesting. She's like, yeah, I'm in the Americas. And not only am I in the Americas, but also I live in a country that has multiple states like you. We have, over 40 states here in Mexico. And I was like, oh, wow. So I had to start rethinking this whole term and the way that we have inherited a European paradigm. And we monopolized this term American as if the United States of America are the only ones that could lay claim to that term. But that's what I mean, by the Americas.
And I think a lot of people, and I wanted you to really speak to that, because I think a lot of people do assume that when we say America, or even, for those that use the label American or African American, then they're thinking people that reside in the United States. And like you said, not that broad sense of like all of this is considered the so-called Americas. And I remember talking one day, I was facilitating a workshop, this years ago. I think I was in graduate school, and I said something about Americans. And I remember this one sister, she might have been from Colombia, something, I can't remember, someplace in South America. And she was like, we're Americans too. And I was so curious about that comment. And I was like, tell me more. And it was the first time that I really got to hear other people from another perspective of like, I think it's arrogant for people from the United States to say that they are the only ones that are Americans, if we're going to use those labels. And I was like, all right, bet.
Yeah. In my work in the region, another term that comes forward quite often as a response to that arrogance, where you had the European founders of the United States of America, which is the proper noun of the country, right? It's the United States. It's a very weird, proper noun. It just doesn't make sense. It's kind of like, hey, we don't know what else to call it, but since we organize these states, let's just call it the organized United States of America, right? And that's, and then, but in response to that arrogance that of folks going around calling themselves the only Americans, you have a book by Jose Marti out of Cuba, right? And that was I think back in 1891, entitled Nuestra America.
New America.
So our America.
Right?
Nuestra. Yeah, Nuestra America. And in the political circles, especially by those that are social activists and scholars in the region. And when I say in the region, I'm referring to the entire region of the Americas, especially those with a Pan-Africanist and or socialist orientation. They will utilize the term Nuestra America to not only lend an ode to Jose Marti, but also to say that what that means, and when we say Nuestra America, we're saying that the America that existed before the Europeans came, right? And we are laying claim to that indigenous view of the Americas. And we recognize that America now has changed, has been transformed through the creation of nation states, right? That now have created arbitrary borders, no different than in Africa. But we know that there is a consistency, that there is a such thing as the geography of the Incas, that there is a such thing as the geography of the Aztecs, that there is a such thing as the geography of the Seminoles, right? So what is our America, right? And we ourselves, as survivors of the Reconstruction and Jim Crow period here as African people, what is our America, right? Our America is very different than what they would define as quote unquote America. So I do appreciate the way that I've seen self-determination in language, you know, across culture and